Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and today I'm dressed like Orson Fortune from Operation Fortune as I discuss the top 7 hacks from the movie Operation Fortune. Now, as a former NSA pen tester, as an investor in some companies that do some offense and a lot of defense, I watched Operation Fortune and I really, really enjoyed it. This has got a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. I think it's a much better movie than that. I'm going to give away a lot of spoilers here, so if you haven't seen it, stop the movie or stop this video and go watch the movie. This is a fairly predictable but high-paced and funny movie, right? Jason Statham plays same kind of character he plays in most of his movies, but he's backed up by an interesting cast. We've got Carrie Ellis from The Princess Bride as sort of the quarterback for this team here. We've got Aubrey Plaza, who's Sarah, who's kind of the hacker that does a bunch of different things we're going to talk about here. And this group is going after Hugh Grant. That's right, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Hugh Grant, who's playing an international arms dealer. And he has come into possession of an AI hacking tool that can hack into anything. So a lot of things happen in this movie. I'm going to break down each of these hacks, both from a, is it possible in real life? And also what's sort of the Hollywood angle on this. All right, so number 7. So one of the first things that happens when Sarah gets to Hugh Grant's Turkish compound is she has to hack into the video cameras. Well, there's an old firewall she comments on that's going to slow her down a little bit. So is the fact that there's a firewall being old does in any way, impact what you're doing in a pen test? And my thought is, from a practical point of view, you're not going to go in blind to a place like this. You're going to case the place remotely, maybe do some phishing, maybe get some footholds in there. You're going to kind of know the lay of the land. So being able to bypass a firewall shouldn't be that hard to do. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're going to have to get access to the out-of-band network where the admin interface is, and perhaps the command and control console, that sort of stuff. That's one way. Another way is, if the firewall's old, it's probably not patched, and it could have vulnerabilities on those admin ports, and it could also have vulnerabilities just from traffic that they're carrying. So I think this is very, very possible to do in real life. Now, the Hollywood angle here, though, it just makes it seem when she's sitting at the keyboard, clickety click, and she's past that firewall. So I think Hollywood makes this look a little bit too easy, but with really good prep, it could be that quick. All right, number 6. Now, one of the things Sarah's doing is she's hacking into this video camera network in order to loop the feed. Now, this happens a couple times in the movie. Now, there's a classic Hollywood trope here where there's a video feed and somebody either wants to misrepresent what's going on or hide some activity. Now, in Sarah's case, she's getting on to Hugh Grant's computers to steal some data, and but they don't want to be seen in that room. So she hacks into the network and basically makes it seem like there is nobody in that room. Now, is this possible? Absolutely, right? These OT cameras, these security cameras, they're on networks. They're often not patched. There's many vulnerabilities that can be exploited. But more likely, what somebody could do is simply kick them off the network with a denial of service attack, some sort of ARP spoofing, and basically set up your own camera, fake cameras, with your own feed. Another thing you could do is hack the management console directly, and in the case of like a remote desktop, you could simply play the video you want to play over that video, and somebody who's not paying close attention might not notice anything that's in that room there. Now, another thing that we talk about is basically physical access. So hack number 5, at one point, Jason Statham's character, Orson, breaks into one of the henchmen's houses, and he gets in there and he, basically gasses everybody so they're sleeping, but he basically gets into a safe which has a laptop and simply installs a USB thing, turns the computer on, and they're in. Now, is this real? Absolutely, this real. These kind of attacks do exist. And, they're not that Hollywood, right? You can do a lot of these sort of USB attacks. Now, you have to know your target. You have to know the patch level. You have to know things like if that guy patched his computer last night, or perhaps switched to a Mac, yesterday, your attack can be foiled, right? And this is what happens with cyber. Hollywood tends to make this stuff look fairly easy. But you give me physical access to a computer, then I know what's on it, I know what patch level is. You can absolutely stick a USB key, install a backdoor on it, and install a Trojan. So Hollywood makes it look a little bit more exciting since we're doing a break-in here. But for the most part, these kind of things do exist, and they're very, very hard to defend against. Now, number four, a lot of things happen in the movie that have to deal with encryption. At one point, they copy a disk drive fairly quickly, you might add, and another time they actually get files after they broke into Hugh Grant's computer, and they were not what they were looking for. And in both cases, Hollywood kind of got this stuff right. The encryption can be hard to break. If you don't have the key, all the computers in the world are going to be really, really hard to do. But something very subtle happened here. I mean, they're looking for this guy. They think he has this AI weapon, but at one point, they think he's just buying AK-47s. Well, it turns out that all of those images of the AK-47s was not only deception, but really some sort of stenography or some sort of other form of key that's going on. Now, this is something that happens in today's hacking. There's if you are trying to evade detection and you use super, super duper encryption, well, guess what? That's a fingerprint. People can track you. And so how do you look when you're not looking like that? Well, if you could make your traffic look like what people are expecting, people going to YouTube, people going to social media, that sort of thing, it's really, really hard to find that kind of stuff. So one of the interesting sort of command and control things we've been seeing from very advanced threat actors is the ability to use and pretend that you're going to like YouTube or looking at email, that kind of stuff, when really you're in fact doing some sort of encrypted comms, encrypted communication. And in this case, it turned out that all of those AK-47 photos was the key to decrypt the hard drive. So a little Hollywood, but actually it's a lot more realistic than I think the average watcher of the movie is going to appreciate. All right, number three. Several times in the movie, there's cell phone hacking. And they make it look really easy. Hollywood does have has in fact doing that. But a lot of times we had our characters having to maneuver in place in order to hack from their cell phone to another cell phone. Now, this happened twice in the movie where a remote part of the team was in comms with a person who was in the field, and he said, I need you to move closer to the target so that this cell phone could talk to the target cell phone. Now, is this possible? Absolutely, this is possible, right? There could be all sorts of vulnerabilities that have to do with protocols such as Bluetooth, wireless. You could probably even spoof some cell phone protocols. But I actually don't think this is what would happen. If you are casing an organization like this, and you've got, the ability to fly around in jets and have an unlimited budget, you probably have the ability to penetrate this network and put some implants on these phones. So it's possible that this implant that they're talking to get control of the phone and whatnot is something that only listens over Bluetooth, over a certain Wi-Fi protocol, that sort of thing. And we've seen tools like this published from the NSA, thanks to unfortunately Edward Snowden and whatnot. Now, is it possible that you could roll into an operation like this and just exploit 0 days? It's possible. But Apple's got a good track record of any time they find a vulnerability, they are pushing out an update, and so does Google. So is it possible? Yes. I think it's much more likely that an op like this is going to put an implant. Now, the Hollywood angle on this, I think it's a little bit more interesting. There's another scene in the movie where Jason Statham's character is sort of going after the number two person in this organization. And he's got, again, get within 50 feet of the person. But once he's within range, his handler can basically jam his phone and actually see what he's texting. And that's kind of cool and very Hollywood. But at the same time, what if this person was using WhatsApp or Signal or Slack or Apple messaging, right? So, I think everybody in the audience understands what a text message is, but today in 2023, maybe the app can do all that stuff. Maybe not. I thought that was a little bit more on the Hollywood side. All right, another scene in the movie is when Jason Statham's character, he ends up killing this guy, and I said there'd be spoilers, this number two person. So he's got to go do the deal to buy this AI hacking software for $10 billion, right? So he's going to pretend to be this guy, and he's got to authenticate with a phone call. So he basically asks Sarah, Aubrey Plaza's character, to do a voice change, right? So can you use AI to kind of make my voice sound like somebody else's in real time? The short answer is yes. Now, I haven't said it specifically or seen it specifically. You can go to places like 1111 Labs. You can upload voice samples, and you can do speech to text, and you can have it generate stuff that sounds like anybody you want, as long as you got the copyright rights for that thing. Now, to do it in real time, could you set up your own AI and do that? Absolutely. Now, is it much more likely you're probably going to have a bunch of pre-planned scripts to say? Absolutely. I think that's much more realistic. Now, unfortunately, the Hollywood angle here, I think, is a little bit more interesting. Just because you can spoof a voice doesn't mean you can spoof a person. Now, Hugh Grant's on the phone. He's talking to his lifelong number two in his organization, doesn't know he's dead. But he's also doing a $10 billion transaction with arms weapons dealers, right? Perhaps there should be some duress words. There should be some code, some banter to make sure that his number two person in the field is not in a compromised position. And this is basic tradecraft when it comes to that kind of stuff. And Hollywood chose to kind of ignore that. All right. Now, I think the best hack in the movie, this number one hack, at one point, Hugh Grant's character kind of gets screwed over out of his $10 billion. So he goes after the people who have the AI hacking tool and that should have paid him. And he basically shows up at their facility, gets in, and he sits down and says, look, I'm the merchant of death here. I'm the angel of death. And to make a point, he actually has missiles going on in the background blowing up part of their facilities.
Could do it with, lights please Danny, one AGM-65 Maverick missile. Very much like this one. In 3, 2, 1. What happened there then? Let's do that again. In 3, 2, 1. Wait. There's more.
What are you trying to convey with this illustration, Mr. Simmons?
What I'm trying to convey, Mike, is how little you boys understand of the new world which you find yourselves in. I would have thought it was obvious that I'd have some kind of insurance. And I do. Danny, give them the papers. You'll see in the left-hand column, there's a list of names and addresses of people that I believe you hold near and dear. In the right-hand column, there's a very exact time for when those people will be, what's a nice word for it, Danny?
Eviscerated.
And then he hands out papers with the actual addresses and real-time location of all their relatives and significant others and that sort of thing. And, this is something that I think people realize is a very doable thing, right? If you have an intelligence organization, private intelligence, and you can track, APT threat actors, ransomware threat actors, you can find out people's family and where they're at pretty quickly, right? There's a lot of people who do open source intelligence. We leave a lot of trails of our loved ones online. I think this is actually a very, very realistic thing to get done. And of course, Hollywood makes it dramatic, but it is something that as an open society, we have very little defense against if somebody is going to target us with those kind of resources. All right, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. This is a fun movie. It's quick. It's sexy. It's got a lot of action. There's some good combat in it. I don't think it deserves a 6.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb. I'm definitely a fan of this kind of movie. If you enjoyed this, give us a like. If you want to see me review more movies like this and talk about the hacking angle on it, let us know on LinkedIn or make a comment here at YouTube. Thanks for watching.